Welcome back to Weekend Walkabout. We're in our gardens and yours virtually. This is Ins and Outs of Plants Part 2, Plant Names. And here in Chapter 2, we're demystifying the names.
Supposedly.
I'm still Janet.
I'm still Stephen.
And we'll see what we can do there. And to start with, we're going to tell you.
And Margaret's here too.
And Margaret and Sonia. We have this handout on our website, on our webinars page for you. And there are lots of plant names on it. It works a little bit as a dictionary. You might want to get this afterwards and take a look at it. Or you might want to pick up a plant names book. But I will tell you that almost all plants, all genera, all genus names are in the dictionary. This is one of the first gifts that Stephen ever got me when we got married, was a library-sized dictionary. And not only are the genus names all in there, but the pronunciation is there. And in the case of like clematis, it has clematis first, then clematis, then clematis. They're all there and they're all acceptable, which is kind of a nice thing to have. So you might not have to go buy a new book. But we do want you to take a poll here because we want to find out how much you know. So let's see what we can do about launching the poll. Polling. Yes, we can launch the poll. So we're going to launch this poll and ask you these 4 questions. If you'd like to participate, just click your answers, 1 answer per question, and we'll tell you what the results are in a minute. Actually, we'll give you 2 minutes.
Yeah. 2 minutes. Oh, silence. That's bad.
Silence.
Radio.
Oh, no, bad radio, bad radio. Dead air.
Dead air.
People have to think though, Stephen.
Yes.
Oh, these are good questions.
Well, after we talked yesterday, Margaret, I said, I think I know what we can do with these.
Excellent.
And just
I can't vote. I'm bummed.
Oh, that's right. Co-hosts are out of the loop.
And just for those who are often saying that, they wish that there was a I don't know option, don't worry about it. You're not being graded on it. Just go with your
Yes.
These are more fun than anything else.
I was always told at school, if you don't know the answer, make your best guess, because at least if you get it right, you get credit for it. But if you don't answer it at all, you never got credit for anything.
I am looking at a whole lot of people who have everything they need already, which is great. Okay, we're going to give you just a minute more, half a minute more. And we'll end that poll. Sorry if you didn't get to answer, but yeah, we're looking for something to let you know what's going on. The correct answer for the first one is Siberica. Probably, if it is native to the Siberian area, then it's going to be hardier than something from Mexicana. And there are places in China that are quite cold, but there are also places that are quite warm, so it's not as good as bad. Perennis just means that it's perennial someplace. Superba just means there's something great about it. People, almost half of the group said all of the above, for which term indicates it belongs in a rock garden. I think probably most people read in and looked, and they said, oh, alpine, mountain,
Himalayas, mountains.
Probably what threw you was Saxatilis, and that's why so few people know. Saxa means rock, and this is rock loving. So all of the above was the correct answer there. The most enduring presence in your garden is probably going to be sempervirens, and anybody who knows marines and semper fi knows always, and this is always living, always looking good. The others are maybe self-explanatory. Which would you most like to touch? I am surprised that anyone ticked toxicodendron, and I would say watch out, you guys, because that's poison ivy. Most people were picking tomentosa. Tomentos means furry, hairy, and is a little different than resinosa. Some people don't like sticky stuff on their fingers.
Or spinosa.
Spinosissimus, yeah, spinosissimus is not a nice thing to do. Okay, our point is, so we can stop the sharing there. And the point is
that's lovely. If only all nurseries would organize plants by their Latin names, you can learn so much about them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you were instrumental in getting Bourdines when you were working there to put them in alphabetical order, right?
Oh Lord, was that a project? You had to inventory everything and then make the signs up with a picture and the Latin name as well as the common name.
Right.
We had an argument there too. People wanted to organize them by common name. I said, you just can't.
Yeah, it's too many common names.
That's the way.
So our point with the poll is that if you don't look at these words, these plant names, as Latin or Greek, and just look at them and say, can I make sense of that? I think because we have Latin as a base of our language, you're going to be able to find most of these. Let me read for you in Hortus Third about Rebecca. That's black-eyed Susan. And this works as it does in many plant encyclopedias. This description, which we'll get to in a second, works like a key. It's like a computer programmer's yes/no thing. So if I read Rebecca, coneflower, it's in the composite family in the Helianthus tribe. There's 25 species of Rebecca. Of course, coarse means large parts. There are no Rebecca's with little ferny leaves. They're annual, biennial, or perennial. So could be any of those. Herbs. Herbs mean not woody. If I've got a woody looking plant and I thought it was a Rebecca, I stop reading at this point. If so far I've said yes to everything, I can say, are the leaves alternate? Yes. Okay, if the leaves are alternate, I still got a chance that it's a Rebecca. They might be simple, pinnatifid, like broken up like a feather, broken up, not feathery, or compound. And the flowers are heads, usually showy. So you read through and you're reading one at a time which things they are and say, okay, if I've got a Rebecca, now I know that I do have a Rebecca. Then I can read down further below Rebecca. It has the species names. So species epithet fulgida, Rebecca fulgida is hairy. Stop reading. If the leaf is not hairy, it's not Rebecca fulgida. Rhizomatus means it grows by rhizomes. It spreads underground. This is how you use these plants, these books.
They're almost like a key themselves.
Yeah.
Books.
They're written that way to have the disqualifiers put right out in front of you. And most of these books have information like the variety names of the most famous ones, Goldsturm or Goldstorm being one of the famous ones. Someone asked last week about the difference between the horse chestnut and the Ohio buckeye, two trees in the Aesculus genus. And you can look up Aesculus, horse chestnut, buckeye in the Hippocastinaceae family. There's 13 species. And if I read down and I see Hippocastinum, Aesculus hippocastinum is the common HC, common horse chestnut, and it's 100 feet tall. If I read down further, I'd find Aesculus glabra, and I've forgotten what the Ohio buckeye is, and find out that it's only 30 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of good information in these plant encyclopedias that we need to take a look at. Parviflora is the bottlebrush buckeye or bottlebrush buckeye, and it describes the differences in the leaves. So that's what you find when you know the plant name. That's a horse chestnut. That's the full-sized tree.
Quiz question about Hortus Third, as I don't have mine anymore. Does it include the cultivars as well?
It does include some cultivars. For instance, there in you've got Alba, the European.
I see.
Alba and Rosea, but certainly not all of the new ones.
Yeah, there's so many new ones now. I'm not sure any book could keep up with all of them.
Yeah, we keep getting the new
Sure.
edition of Durr just to get the new crab apples, and there's about 70 pages of crab
That doesn't
apples.
even count.
Now you can also identify what plants are by using a key, and this key, for instance, would help you figure out which family your plant is in. These keys you need to know the names of things like sepals and pistils and ovaries, and so I think it's better to work from the plant encyclopedias than that. Now, how do names get changed? And they do get changed, and it drives us nuts.
It drives a lot of people nuts, not just us. There's professors and
If a text, yes, our friend Dave Mitchner will be with us the next time we do plant names, and his doctorate is in taxonomy or plant names. And what will happen is some taxonomist somewhere not David certainly, will say, you know, I've been looking at this genus and thinking that these 3 plants are really not as closely related as the other 13 are. And they will look closer at the flowers. And now they're looking with scanning electron microscopes, and they're looking to the genome level, and they're going, by George, this is a different species. And they get to name a different species. And they'll take that to the International Botanical Congress that meets every 2 years, and they'll argue about whether or not that can be changed, and then they'll change it if they agree. Sometimes the changes are because someone does some research and finds out, for instance, when the Iron Curtain came down in the 80s, all of a sudden a whole lot of information that had been behind that curtain in the Soviet Union became available here. And it changed some names of plants because at the rules say in the International Botanical Congress that whoever first published about the plant gets to name it. And if it turned out that Maximovich wrote about that clematis before this guy did over here, he's going to bump the name. So clematis got its name changed. Recently, Scholar Tree, which had a perfectly good name, Sephora japonica.
Nice, easy.
I like that name.
You could actually spell it and pronounce it.
It got its name changed to Stiphnolobium japonicum. I go, God, you know, Stiphnolobium. I haven't even figured out what they're basing that one on. But what's the nice thing about name changes is that for a long time after the name change, both names will be listed.
Mm-hmm.
It'll show SYN for synonym, or it'll show in parentheses like we have here, it'll show you the other name. And you'll find that many authorities, like our friend David at Mathi or Mike Durr, will write things in Mike Durr's book. You'll find one entry that's, I think it's for the yellowwood tree. He said, they've changed the name, but I'm betting in 2 years it's coming back this way. So they do change. They don't change a lot, but they do change. And it's not important to be right on top of it, but to know that it does happen. Okay, so they look like Greek. They're just universal. And most of these words, if you wrote these things down and gave them to a Roman back in the day, they would, it would look like gibberish. It would look like pidgin English, if anything. So we speak a language that has Latin as its base. So a lot of these words you can look at and figure out what they mean, just the way you did on the poll. And now what we're going to look at is all the different things that the species epithet or the genus can tell. It can, what these words were chosen when someone decides to name a plant. They might describe the use of the plant or some aspect of how it looks, where they found it, the native habitat.
They might honor somebody who found it.
Or they might honor somebody who was paying for their expedition to go look for plants.
Now that too.
And a few go all the way back to Latin and Greek. And like I said about my looking for liriope as liriope, down south they call it liriope or liriope.
Both of them are probably in the dictionary and probably right.
Yeah. So don't feel bad about that. But do, if you can't communicate with somebody, write it down. Steve knows that. Steve had a terrible time with these names until he started typing them constantly as he was cataloging pictures.
When I was in school, I had to spell the scientific names on our test. Our test was 40 twigs laid out, tree twigs, and then you had to say,
oh, wow,
that was a Quercus ruber, or that was a Quercus alba, and
you had to spell them right as well as get the name right, get the identification right. So let's take a look at some of those. This is the way that the outline that we gave you works as something of a dictionary. Under color, the kind of terms you'll see that have to do with color or pattern of colors, the first line starts with alba. And I think most of you would know that alba means white. Most of the things in that line mean white or gray. Alba marginata is white on the edges. Lactiflora is flowers, milky flowers. Candicans is shining white. Candidum is also shining white. Senilus is gray white. Glauca is white and can actually be rubbed off. Nivalis is spring white. The second line is amethystinus, and that's colors. Azureus, argentea is silver. The aurea line starts all of the yellow words. And then there's rubra for the red words. Nigra is for the dark or black. There's no really true black in plants. So do you see how this works? I hope you do, because That's how you look at something. Oh, there's the new name for Eupatorium. So Joe Pye, Eupatorium purpureum.
Well, at least they kept the purpureum.
Yeah, it got changed to Eutrochium. And that's because somebody looked at those Eupatoriums. Yeah, don't you love it? Eutrochium. I'm not going to say it. I like Eupatorium. But purpureum doesn't mean purple. It means reddish color. And it might say on some plants, atropurpureum, very purple, most purple.
Most red.
Most red.
Yes.
Right, most red. Perennial foxglove's name is Digitalis lutea. Now, Digitalis is for the finger-like appearance of the flowers, and it is the whole genus. Lutea is one of those yellow words.
Yep.
And this is the perennial foxglove that has just not pink flowers, just yellow flowers. This is the false foxglove, downy false foxglove, Oriolaria. Flava is another yellow word.
Term.
There are some false foxgloves that are pink, pinky purple color. This is the one that is flava. That is, so it's not the Oriolaria rubra, it's the Oriolaria flava. Swamp white oak, you go with that.
It's bicolor because its leaves are actually two different. The underside of the leaf is lighter than the upper side. You can see hints of lighter
color
in there, and even in the fall color, the under and over are different. Red oak is red.
It leaves out red. It turns red in the fall. Yeah,
it works that way.
Orchis rubra.
Yeah, the Joseph's coats or the
Amaranthus tricolor.
Tricolor I could pronounce.
Yeah. So during the growing season, it's green with some red and purple on the leaf. And then it come to fall, it goes into fall color and even more colorful. And that's why they named it that.
And then we get into scent.
And you remember that scent can be nice and scent can be not nice. If you find a plant whose name is fetidus,
don't smell it.
Yeah, that might not be something you want to put your nose into. Inodorum would mean, I've seen there's jasminum or jasmine inodorum. If you were growing jasmines because you like the smell of jasmine, you wouldn't want to get jasminum inodorum.
Yeah.
So this is the winter honeysuckle. The very first blooming honeysuckle is called Lonicera fragrantissima. Wouldn't you want to have a fragrantissima in your yard someplace?
They sure are fragrant.
Oh, you can smell them so far away. Or it might describe the way the flowers are arranged. No, sorry, this is a sweet Solomon seal, which is Polygonatum odoratum. The root is ground up and used as an element in potpourris. And this happens to be variegatum. If it was Polygonum odoratum, stop the name there, it would have all green leaves. This is variegatum with the white edge on the leaf. And here's your common jasmine. His name is Jasminum odoratissimum.
Odoratissimum.
And as we said with dill, anethum is the word for dill, but graveolens means strong smelling. No guarantee when you see a plant that's called graveolens that it's going to be nice smelling.
Yeah.
Just that it's strong smelling. Many of the words describe the feel: corrugated, plied, folded, crassus, folded, venosus, veined, elasticus. That's great when you find these things. Xylostium, xylem is the wood part of the plant, means woody, rigidus. So those three words fit in the same category. Filamentosa is broken up into little strands. The feel of hairiness, would you want to feel something that's hirsute? Or would you rather hear something that's mollus, that's soft? They're all just different variations. Yep. And then all your spine words like spinosa and triacanthus. Okay. So alchemilla, whose name is alchemilla because alchemists felt that if they collected that water that gathers on leaves, they could make gold out of base metals. Alchemilla, mollus means downy, means soft, and it is a very soft leaf. Marie's double file viburnum is Viburnum plicatum. Do you see the folds, creases in the leaf? Plicatum. Tomentosum, the underside of the leaf is fuzzy. And then Marizii is the name of the plant. Gladitia is named for a gliditch is his name. I think he was a German botanist, and he got to name the honey locust, Gladitia triacanthus, 3 thorns. See how it's the thorns are
Whoops.
barbed in two ways. Terrible plant.
Oh, yeah.
That's why mostly when you want to plant a honey locust, you plant Gladitia triacanthus inermis. Inermis meaning unarmed, meaning no thorns.
Which they took away the thorns, but they also took away the fragrant flowers.
Right,
so,
right. When you lose the thorns, you want the flowers.
Yeah.
The words might describe the shape. And so here you've got a bunch that show the overall shape: cylindricus, globosus, or briculatus, convoluted, crispus, recurved, elongated, all those kind of words. Horizontalis, laying on the ground. Procumbens, laying on the ground. Prostrata, laying on the ground.
Lancifolia. Yep.
These are all, and all of these words, you're going to find plants with whose names go in.
Common plants.
Common plants, yeah. So ajuga is ajuga repens for reposing on the ground, for laying on
Crawling
the ground,
along.
crawling along on the ground.
And those are not flower stalks. That looks like a sedum that snuck in there.
Yeah,
that's
that
good old
sedum acrid that's in there. Yeah,
Angelina's
gotten in there. Yep. And shape, acephala. Okay, kale is interesting. Actually, Brassica oleracea is a species. It's the species of broccoli. It's the species of cabbage. It's the species of cauliflower. And it's also the species of kale, flowering kale, and a number of other things. If you're in a kale, you're Brassica oleracea acephala, no head. If you've heard of cephalopods, or so acephala is without a head. So the kale group is acephala, no heads. Now there were things that show up in plant names. Phylla and folia mean something about the leaf. So pentaphyllus means 5 leaves. Rotundifolia means round leaf. Rounded and turgid leaves. The flower, you'll find the words flora and anth. Densiflora, flowers packed tightly together. Latiflorus, their flowers grow on the side branches. Longiflorum, micranthus, little tiny flowers. Fruit is generally carp. So you see microcarpa, melanocarpa, xanthocarpa for yellow fruit. Pod and call is stem. So pachypoda means that the stem is a certain thick stem. Acaulis means without a stem.
Yeah.
Tuber and rhiz. Yeah, you buy anything that says it's got a rhiz, it's got a rhizome.
It's going to run.
It's going to run. Macrorhizome, big root, tuberosa. Okay, so I think, do we have something there? Talking about flowers, calycanthus or sweet shrub, Carolina allspice. It's entirely calyx there means the arrangement of petals and sepals together is the calyx. Anthus is the anthers that are very, very showy in there and very white. And all it's saying is that this is a plant that has a showy flower and anthers. And there's a genus that includes it. You can get habit of foliage like alternifolia, like we showed you, that instead of leaves being one on either side, there'll be one here, then one here, back and forth. Diversifolia means that the leaves might start out looking opposite on the bottom of some of the campanulas, for instance, the bellflowers, and then as you go up the flowering stem,
they become alternate. Oh yeah.
Bravifolius, little bitty leaves. Adpressa, leaves pressed against the stem. Palmata, veined like fingers out from a palm. Pineta, veined like a feather. Perfoliatus, looks like the stem comes right through the leaf. Quinquefolia is 5 leaves.
5.
So palmatum.
You can see it's the shape of a palm.
All the veins come right out. Diphyllum, two leaves. The leaves are split into 2 parts. There's a 3-part up here, and there's a 3-part down below. It's a little hard to see on the picture. That's wood poppy or celandine poppy. Stylophorum diphyllum. Variegated hosta. This is one of the sweet-smelling, late-blooming hostas that has a white edge. Hosta plantagenea. Alba marginata. And Plantagenet, it comes from the Plantagenet
Yes.
family, the English royalty. It was named in honor of the English royal family at the time that it was collected and brought back to Kew Gardens.
The tricolor beach.
Tricolor beech,
Ah.
Roseo marginata describes the leaf. It's Fagus sylvatica, Roseo marginata. You might find size or overall impression of the plant. Don't you love it? Abbreviatus.
Yeah.
Would you?
Compactus, nanus, nana.
Yeah, all the little words. Elatus means tall. Exaltatus means tall. I as a short person, I tend to bristle at that. I mean, why do I have to be elated to be tall? But
Yeah, the exaltation. I always thought it was a beautiful plant.
yeah. Amabilis or amabilis means beautiful. So it goes in with elegans and pulchella. Dwarf grape holly is Mahonia. That's named for somebody by the name of Mahan, who named the genus. Aquifolium means leaves like holly, because aqua is way back to Greek, what holly meant. And compactum, it's the little one, which most people would want to grow, not the big one, not the tall one.
That can be a pest.
It can run.
It can. But for evergreen shade, for
In the
something
right
that's
spot, it
evergreen
really
in the
is.
shade, yep, we like to use it. Dwarf Hinoki false cypress, Cami cypress, Cami false, cypress, cypress. So it's like a cypress. Obtusa refers to the leaves are obtuse or blunt. The little tiny leaves are all pressed in. They don't have those picky leaves like junipers do. And Nana means littlest.
Maybe not the littlest either.
Yep. Giant allium, Allium giganteum. I mean, it's telling you right there what it is.
Yep.
People asked Steve whether those were real last year. He said,
Oh,
those are
yeah.
real? Yep, those are real. Those are real.
Yeah.
Beauty bush, its name is beauty bush, and its name says beauty bush. Colquitzia, it's named for somebody by the name of Colquitz. Amabilis or amabilis is beautiful, and it is beautiful. This blooms after the crab apples. A lot of people think it's a crab apple blooming. The butterflies love it. The smell is good.
It's a very prolific bloomer.
Yeah.
And it's
Not-
a big
Kind of an
shrub.
old-fashioned shrub too.
It's old fashioned. It's big. It needs pruning occasionally, but when it's bright, it's gorgeous.
And one of our favorite employees ran into just a heck of a frustrating day. We sent him out to get a beauty bush when we were working on the place where they had the fire out there in Highland. And we sent him out to get a beauty bush, Colquitzia amabilis. And he went looking, and he came back to us with beauty berry, because at the nursery, they convinced him that he really wanted beauty berry.
That we were telling him the
beauty
wrong
bush,
plant.
beauty berry, not the same plant, and got to go by that botanical name. A lot of plants will tell you their life cycle. Their name will say annuus, biennis, perennis. Decidua loses its leaves. Sempervirens always looks green. Ephemerum, some aspect of the plant comes and
Disappears.
goes. Yep. Erraticus, don't you love it?
Once every 2 years, maybe.
And if you buy a plant like Cornus stolonifera, the red twig dogwood, and then you complain that it's running and it's a suckering shrub, well,
You
duh,
should
it was there
realize.
in the name, stolonifera. That's what it was going to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so life cycle. This is the perennial lupin. This is our native Great Lakes lupin, perennis, Lupinus perennis. It's shorter than this one, which is the biennial introduced Lupinus polyphyllus. It's shorter, blooms for a bit longer, has an incredibly deep root on it, and doesn't come in as many colors.
And it's
biennial. And that one's biennial. The evergreen honeysuckle, Linicera sempervirens, has been crossed a number of times to give us things like, this one is called pink lemonade. And then it's Linicera cross sempervirens. Most of the time for us in Michigan, it doesn't keep its leaves. It lost that aspect of the hybridization. The names might tell you the flowering time. Vernalis being spring, vernal. Autumnale
late,
being late. And in pronouncing the words, one of the things that that I do that's Latin, Greek based, is that you're supposed to pronounce every syllable. So it's not autumnale, it's autumnale. Floridus, floribunda, multiflorus, passiflower, those all just mean they flower, and either flower big or little, or sterilis, don't have true flowers. Sterilis can be pretty. There is a viburnum opulus sterilis that's called, what's it called? They call it snowball bush.
Yeah.
It's very showy. It has flowers, but the flowers don't have male and female parts in them.
They're just
sterile.
those white, like we see. balls.
Tardiva means blooms late. Praecox or precocious means it blooms early. Dioica means two different male and female separate. So our favorite panicle hydrangea is tardiva. This is hydrangea paniculata tardiva
Yeah.
because it blooms later than all the rest of them do.
And it's nice flower too.
Yeah. Might describe the arrangement of the flowers. Polygonatum biflorum, two flowers hanging together everywhere. And a lot of words in the species names and the species epithet are comparing to related plants. So they're trying to make sure that you know between two geraniums or between two rudbeckias that this is Verus, the true one, or vulgaris, the common one, or Aphinus. I've forgotten what Aphinus is. I have to remember that one.
It's
And they will compare, and the more that you learn more plant names, the more you can read these, because you'll see things like yuccifolia, which means Eryngium, the sea holly, yuccifolium. Eryngium yuccifolium has leaves that look like a yucca.
not that it's yucky foliage.
Yeah, liliofolia means has leaves like a lily. Pinifolia, like a pine. Acerifolia, like a maple. Cercidophyllum, like a cercis, a redbud. So uvularia grandiflora. I remember when I got uvularia grandiflora, I thought, wow, not particularly big flower.
Grand flowers.
It's comparing between the uvularias. This is the uvularia with the bigger flowers. It doesn't mean that it's big on any absolute scale. It means compared to the other uvularias.
It's bigger.
So you can find a campanula grandiflora. You find lots of things that are grandiflora, and it just means that within their group. It's a great plant, by the way. Uvularia, more people should be growing marybills and fairybills, particularly if you've got part shade. It stays in one place. It's beautiful. It makes you look.
Unique looking flowers.
Makes you look to see the flowers. Yes, it's a great plant.
Yeah.
Beard tongue. The penstemons are called beard tongues because of that fuzziness on the petal that's sticking out. Beard tongue.
Right
and
there.
this is the foxglove beard tongue because it has the coloration and the height of digitalis. So they're calling it penstemon digitalis, the penstemon that looks like foxglove, digitalis. Anise hyssop, great pollinator plant, great butterfly plant, is Agastache feniculum. Fenicule is fennel. This is the Agastache that smells like fennel, that smells like licorice. And dawn redwood, I love dawn redwood. Its name.
The name alone. it rolls.
Metasequoia glyptostroboides.
I like that one. Rolls off the tongue.
Just
Yeah.
rolls right off.
You should hear Dave Mitchter say it.
Yep. Metasequoia glyptostroboides is the only member of its genus. It's
Left.
It's an ancient plant. It matches the fossil records from 200 some million years ago. And it's the only one around. When they found it, they said, well, it's like a sequoia, meta sequoia. We'll call it metasequoia. And it looks kind of like this other plant that's an ancient plant that there's only one of called a Glyptostrobus. So we'll call it Metasequoia glyptostroboides. So this wonderful plant that's made it through 200 some million years of existence has got a name that just says it's like two other plants,
Yeah.
which is awful.
And no other plants are like this one.
Yeah, they should have given it a much better name.
Anyway.
Okay. Katsura is its genus name is Cercidophyllum. Cercis is redbud. Diphyllum, two leaves, means that it has leaves that look like redbud. And if you've seen heart-shaped redbud leaves, then you know that. And Japonicum for the part of the world that it was collected in.
Janet, this is your 5-minute warning.
Thank you,
you.
Margaret. So you've got use in history. Agrarius, Arvensis, Edulus, Esculentus, those are all Oleracea. They're all the things that we eat. Textilis, obviously used for cloth. Officinalis means it was sold in pharmacies. That's all that it means. And then they might have specifics for syphilitica, used for treating syphilis.
Vomitoria.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Lavandula is for cleaning. Religiosa, alchemists. dectorum. Okay, so cooking sage is Salvia officinalis or officinalis. Either one is right. And it's the, yeah, officinalis, because in
Oh, wow.
you don't
What
say
a beautiful
frog
picture of
seed.
sage.
Yeah. Hummingbirds love that plant. Great blue lobelia is called Lobelia syphilitica because the Native Americans turned to try to use it to cure the syphilis that the Europeans brought over to them. It didn't work, but the
they tried
Europeans
something.
saw the Native Americans using it and said, oh, well, that's the lobelia that cures syphilis, Lobelia syphilitica. It might refer to the native site or where they found it. Sylvaticus being woods, campestris meaning of hedges, convallaria of the valley, hortensis of the garden, maritime along the sea edge, montanus up in the mountains, deserta, glacialis, palustris and iliginosa are swamp, and rusticanus, I love that, rusticanus of the
Iron belt.
yeah, the rust belt. Okay, so European beech is Fagus sylvatica, the beech of the woods, and pendula is the one that weeps. It might have where it came from or where it was collected, and you can't tell me that anything that says Michiganensis is Latin. Kentuckia is not Latin. Labradoricus is not Latin.
Utahensis.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, so you'll find these plants. So obedient plant is Physostygia virginiana because it was collected in that part of the world that they called Virginia way back when. New England aster is well, it used to be Aster noviangli.
Isn't that nice? Aster.
And they changed it to Symphotrichum a little while ago. I'm expecting it to be
Symphotrichum.
This is one of those that might get changed back.
There's also an Aster novi Belgi, Aster New York aster.
Yeah.
They're just telling you the name. Eastern columbine is Aquilegia canadensis, and canadensis means northern North America. Wisteria chinensis, the wisteria that was collected in China. And there's a lot of plants that are named for somebody. They're honoring somebody. Achillea is for Achilles. Anemone for a Greek deity. Davidii for Père David, who was a missionary who collected plants.
Franklinia
is for Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson. Maxima Witziana, that's mine on here because that's a Russian name, and that's what clematis got changed to.
Yeah.
And then there's also some names that just go back. Carrot's been carrot forever. Banana's been Musa since the time of the Persians. These names, Rosa goes way back. Mentha goes way back. So honorifics, Sergeant Charles Sargent collected a lot of plants and headed the Arnold Arboretum. He's named for, he's got a
lot of plants. Named for him. There's cherry, there's a Prunus sargenti, there's a hemlock that's sargenti.
Cleome haslerana, which I remembered its name as, it's such a hassle because the spines on the stem get you.
Oh, and it stinks.
Yeah, and it does stink, but it's named for a person by the name of Hassler. Birkwood viburnum is named for the man who made the cross, Viburnum cross Birkwoodii, that gave us the evergreen, sweet-smelling viburnum called Birkwood viburnum. Weigela is named for somebody by the name of Weichel. The fall clematis went through its names. It started out as Clematis paniculata. Then the Iron Curtain came down and they went, oh no, Maximovich named it, so it's Clematis maximovichiana. And now they've changed it to Clematis ternata because somebody in Australia had a better claim to it.
Yeah.
Arborvitae, Thuya is an ancient name. Occidentalis means western, means eastern, means of the eastern North America. And this is just our signal that that's a pretty picture of an armpit tree, and common names are just as much fun as Latin names. So any questions you've got, or if you're heading out, then head out into the garden. You can do things out there now. Some of you were here early and saw that I moved a shrub yesterday.
Or our guest that showed up from Hawaii might want to go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Corky.
Yeah. Are there any questions?
There are. And I also wanted to say thanks to everyone for joining, and gardenatz.org is where you find our other free webinars, or to subscribe to do this every week because it's always a great show. All right, so I missed a question from the last round. Gretchen was curious if you need both male and female for Pyrrhus japonica.
No, Pyrrhus japonica is complete in itself. It's monoecious, one house. One house gives you everything.
Great. Oh, and Kathleen was asking, what is the name of the real name of the armpit tree she forgot from last week?
Dawn redwood.
Metasequoia.
Leptostroboides.
I can't say that. I love it, but I can't say it.
Ruth was curious about what are some of the other blue flowered plants that are called bluebells?
Many of the campanulas are called bluebells. There's English bluebells, Scottish bluebells, Irish bluebells,
Spanish bluebells.
and well, that's
And
it.
some of the bulbs.
But
Yeah, the bulbs like
But
Endymion and Campanulata are bulbs called bluebells. Campanulas are campanulas
yeah.
called bluebells. Well, the Mertensia, the Virginia bluebells are called bluebells. There is another one, and it's Anchusa, ANCHUSA, are called bluebell.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So yeah, there's a bunch of them.
Yep. When you were looking at the actual entries and there were some abbreviations, SSP is subspecies, correct? Did I get that right?
SSP is subspecies, SPP is species plural.
Okay, and then Amy was asking about what's AIT, capital AIT.
That's who described the name, and I've forgotten who AIT is. It's somebody's name, because there are a number of different authorities that decided that name in the first place. If I look here in my Hortus, I'll find that out. Steve can take the next question.
Great. Corky is actually asking, any idea what the real name of a tree they call the autograph or signature tree might be?
Ooh.
No, we can look for that.
We'll look for that.
I'm going to do the quick thing here. I'm going to look at an autograph tree. One of the nice things about Hortus is that it has a common name index in the back. So I'm going to look up autograph tree and see if they happen to have it.
Or signature.
Yeah.
Nope, didn't know it right off the top of my head. That's for sure.
Yeah. It says it's a mid-sized leathery leaf you can write on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Is that a Hawaiian?
Clusia rosea.
Clusia rosea.
CLUSIA rosea. Clusia rosea.
Excellent. And then speaking of spelling and pronunciation, I just wanted to check. Michelle asked about CORYDALIS, and I checked the Oxford English Dictionary, which I have access to. It says corydalus.
And that is correct. Corydalus.
Hooray!
We started
Corydalus.
growing it in
I
our
call it
garden.
Corydalis.
Yeah, we started growing it in our garden because we have a Cory in the family, so we called it Corydalis. But
Yeah.
it's Corydalus is the correct name. Yeah.
Corydalus. Excellent. So OED comes through. And then, and Gretchen had to leave, but just to clarify, you had said everybody with shade needs ... And was it the Marybells?
Marybells, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Tina remembered that. Tina had a better memory than me. So
Good job.
Good.
excellent.
Good job.
And I think that's what we've got. Oh, Teresa's asking what's planned for next week.
Yeah.
Next week, next week is fun. Next week is what the groundhog won't tell. Next week is folklore, because it's coming up on Groundhog Day. And once upon a time, Stephen and I wanted to find out, why is it Groundhog Day? What is the big deal about Groundhog Day? So we began looking for tales of groundhog, because we're done here with part 2, chapter 2 of plant names. But what the groundhog won't tell is that we found that there's not a lot that we could trace on why the heck it's groundhog, but man, did we find a lot of garden folklore along the way. So we're just doing garden folklore.
Yes.
Celebrating the return of the light.
And I agree, Therese, every week is fun.
We are noticing that the light is changing so much. It's so cool watching it get brighter, longer.
All right. So we're going to end now. I'm going to scroll back through the chat and just pronounce a couple of names that maybe we missed before, just so that we have them on tape and I can send them to people who might have asked about them. We're really glad that you could be with us this week.
Thank you so much.
It is an enjoyable way.
Glad to be here. Yeah, thanks to all the participants. We had a great session.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone.
See you next week.
Thank you and bye.
Oh, and Lorraine is requesting for next week, can you include a list of plants that groundhogs don't eat? That would be a nice addition.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye now.
Bye.